A social worker's story. As a social worker, I've encountered numerous challenging situations, but one case in particular has left an indelible mark on my heart and mind. It's the story of a young boy named Jason, and it's a case I'll never forget. Jason was just 8 years old when I first met him. He had been placed in foster care after a series of disturbing reports from neighbors and teachers about his home life. When I walked into the foster home, I found a boy who seemed much older than his years, with eyes that held a depth of pain I could scarcely fathom. Jason's parents were both addicts. His mother struggled with methamphetamine, and his father was an alcoholic. Their home was a place of chaos, neglect, and, at times, violence. Jason had often been left to fend for himself, sometimes for days on end, while his parents disappeared on drug binges. He'd been hungry, scared, and completely alone. The foster parents who took Jason in were kind and patient, but Jason was deeply traumatized. He barely spoke and would flinch at the slightest noise. He had frequent nightmares and struggled with severe anxiety. We arranged for him to see a therapist, and I worked closely with him to try and provide some semblance of stability. One day, as I was visiting Jason at school, he broke down and shared something that shook me to my core. He told me about a particularly horrific night when his father, in a drunken rage, had locked him in the basement. Jason spent the entire night huddled in a corner, listening to his parents screaming and fighting upstairs. He was terrified his father would come back down and hurt him, something that had happened before. That night marked a turning point in our case. We escalated our efforts to provide Jason with the support he needed, both emotionally and legally. His parents were brought into the system, and I worked tirelessly to ensure Jason wouldn't have to return to that environment. Despite the challenges, Jason slowly began to heal. His foster parents were incredibly supportive, and with therapy, he started to open up more. He even began to smile occasionally, something I hadn't seen when I first met him. However, the case took a tragic turn when Jason's mother, trying to get clean, relapsed and overdosed. She didn't survive. Jason was devastated, and the progress he had made seemed to vanish overnight. It was one of the hardest moments in my career, watching this young boy crumble under the weight of loss and trauma. In the end, Jason was adopted by his foster parents, who continued to support him through his grief and recovery. I remained involved in his life for a while, ensuring he had access to all the resources he needed. Over time, he began to rebuild, slowly but surely. The case of Jason is one I carry with me every day. It's a stark reminder of the resilience of children and the profound impact of a stable, loving environment. As a social worker, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the darkness we encounter, but seeing a child like Jason find a way to heal gives me hope and fuels my dedication to this work.